Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Usually when we are in a rush and we need to do our salah quickly, sometimes people will tell the imam, read some short surahs so that we could go quickly. Or if we're at home and we need to try to rush, sometimes we're always trying to read the shortest surahs. But subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has packed such deep meaning into some of the shortest surahs. And so the Surah Asr that I recited, it's only 3 ayahs. Wal Asr, it's the first ayah, right? But it's just one word, Wal Asr. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by the passing of time. And what is time? Time is the thing that separates us from the past. Just 30 days ago today, we were sitting in Ramadan waiting for Eid. Just 30 days ago, we were watching what was happening to our brothers and sisters in Palestine and thinking that we wish that we could do something. And even though that time has passed, we still cannot do anything to help our people. When we look around the world, We see that time has passed. Yes, the earth has moved, the sun and the moon. Yes, yesterday there was a solar eclipse. And all of these things are signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us to reflect and to think about the time that has passed and what it has meant for us. And if you're ever really looking for a physical manifestation of that time, if you're ever looking to prove to yourself that time is something that is real and it is something that exists, then just go outside and look at the moon. And go out the next night and the next night and the next night, and you will see the phases of the moon change. Or go and look at your fingernails. If you go 2 weeks without cutting your nails, your nails will be long and you'll start developing rashes as you try to scratch yourself. And so just as we are sure that time is real and time exists, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by this passing of time that surely just as time is real and time exists and you are sure that it is real, innal insana lafi khusr, that know that indeed mankind, all of mankind, is in this state of loss. And the words here are not just Muslims. It's not innal insana. It's not Muslims are in lost, or non-Muslims are in lost, or men are in lost, or women are in lost, or Asians are in lost, or Pakistanis or Desis are in lost. No, it's all of mankind. All of us, all of people who can walk and speak whatever language, no matter what skin color, men, male, female, child, elder, we are all lumped together in this state of loss. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that just as you are sure that time is real and time exists, know that all of you, all of mankind, collectively are in this state of loss. And what is loss? Loss to each of us can mean something very different. For some, we are losing our health. For others, we're losing money. For some, we may be losing our parents, or maybe losing the generations that came before us. I was a child, just 4 years old, 5 years old, growing up at this masjid. And now, 30 years later, I stand before you as a man. That is what time is. And indeed, all of us here today and all of us sitting at home are in this state of loss. That we are constantly going through some calamity. We are constantly going through some struggle. We're constantly dealing with some issue in our lives that some people may not understand, but others may not ever get. And some will be these struggles that we will never be comfortable sharing with anyone. But collectively and individually, all of mankind is in this state of loss, is in this state of constantly having parts of us taken away. And there's a saying by Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah, that, "O son of Adam, you are just days. That as one day, each day that passes by, that's one day less that's in your life." And that is true. As we feel older, I'm 33 years old. And it was just a few days ago, or at least it feels like just a few days ago to me, that I was in my mid-20s. So you go from your teens to your 20s, then you're in your mid-20s, then you're in your late 20s, then you're in your early 30s, and you're in your mid-30s. And the time passes by so fast, but it's just one day at a time. We are living this life one day at a time, but suddenly what happens is you may get older and older day by day, and suddenly you are not the cool, young, hip person anymore. And you are the elder that the kids now look at and say, this guy has a beard and has hair and now is wearing a topi. So all of us are constantly in this state of loss, except, and so, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And so if you went to a doctor, actually I was just at the doctor and that's why I was a little late. If you're at the doctor, if you tell the doctor that there's something wrong with you, The doctor will do some tests. The doctor will, check your vitals, and the doctor will give you some small prescription of how you can change. If you have a heart problem, they may give you some medicine. If you have some blood pressure issue, they may tell you don't eat certain things, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us, has given us this prognosis that all of mankind, that all of you are in this state of loss, except إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, except for those of you who believe. And again, this is the word that's used, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, those of you who believe. This is capital B, believe. This isn't just simply believing in Islam, right? It doesn't say except for those of you who are Muslim. It says those of you who have Iman. Those of you who have belief in Allah, capital B, belief in Allah. And you know what? Belief kind of goes up and goes down sometimes. We may be going through a struggle in our lives, and so we may be asking ourselves, oh Allah, why are you putting me through such calamity? And so the reality is that we must constantly remember belief in Allah. For us, I could say it's a little easier because we claim to be Muslims. So we know that we are believing in Allah, that we have belief, that we have this Iman in Allah. But if you look around the world today, if you look outside the Muslims, there are people who you could see, they may have belief in Allah, they may have a belief in God, but they don't have an understanding of what Islam is, or what the actual belief structure is. So except for those of you who believe, capital B, believe, and do good deeds. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. And doing good deeds is really an individual and a collective responsibility. So I'll talk about the individual responsibility first. From an individual's responsibility, only you know what you are capable of when it comes to good deeds. Some of us may have some money in our pockets and can put it in the donation box as the box is coming. Others may be articulate. Others may be good at math or science. Others may be good at other things. Only you understand the true goodness that you are capable of, that you are at the individual level, what you are capable of doing. Only you understand the resources that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with. And those resources are a test for what you will do. Will you seek to acquire large sums of money and then just keep it to yourself and buy a large house and a nice car, but then see your neighbors struggling next to you and just think, oh, that's not my responsibility? Or will you do something with that which Allah has blessed you with and do some good for those around you? And so that leads me to the next thing. The إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, the doing good deeds, both individually and collectively. And on a collective level, what does this mean? For some of us, we are involved in the community, and that is our outlet to attempt to do good deeds. And I say attempt to do good deeds because it's very important that sometimes we may have good intentions, but we may actually be doing more harm than good. Right? When we see kids coming to the masjid, sometimes as an elder now, as an older person, I may be thinking that I am telling the person to do the right thing. But if I am not doing it in a constructive manner so that the children or the younger people can understand, then actually I am doing more harm than good. Even if my intention is clean, the action itself has to be grounded in an understanding of Islam that is collaborative and constructive. And remember that our goal is to bring people together onto the boat or onto the ship that as we're sailing, And so this is an opportunity for us to reflect upon the good deeds that are available to us in the collective. So إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. And invite, enjoin, remind each other of Haqq. And so as someone who's Pakistani and may have, in Urdu, the word Haqq has been taught to us since we were little. But what is Haqq? For those who may have grown up here, it's a word that it's just 4 letters, but they may not necessarily understand, the young people that are here. Haqq is not just one thing. If you were to try to translate Haqq, you would not translate it only as one thing. So you could use the translation of truth or justice or righteousness or honesty, but Haqq is not just truth. Haqq is not just honesty. Haqq is not just justice. Haqq is all of those things. Haqq is the thing that we know in our hearts that guides us towards what we know to be right. And when we look around the world today, we can see that there is plenty that is wrong in the world. And many times, it is even in our, a lot more actually, most of the times, it's even in our own countries. When I go to Pakistan, I could see that there are very rich people, and then there are people living in the street. I could see that there are people who are ordering tankers of water, but then there are people dying from thirst. We could see this in our own lives, in our own society, and even in this society. What is Haqq here? When we see what's happening to our brothers and sisters around the world, in Palestine, in Kashmir, in wherever you may go, our responsibility is to constantly enjoin, remind, invite people towards truth. Right? Constantly we are reminded, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. Remind, enjoin, remember, invite to truth. And when we are in with our colleagues, when I go to work on weekdays and I'm dealing with my co-counsel or I'm dealing with people who I'm working with as colleagues, it is our job then to remind each other of Haqq. And yes, that can be very uncomfortable when you are having conversations with non-Muslims. Yes, that can feel a bit out of place when you are talking with non-Muslims about the importance of truth and justice and honesty. But you know what I have seen as I've traveled both in the United States and abroad, when you talk to people and you talk about truth and justice and honesty regardless of faith, people know what you're talking about. When you talk to people who are Christian about understanding what is just and true and right, you will see that you will have a very fruitful conversation. And even if you don't mention Islam, even if you don't mention God, if you are just having a frank, honest, emotional conversation with someone who is a colleague or a friend or a relative, and you talk to people about truth and justice and honesty, you will see that they will immediately recognize what you're talking about. And that's the truth, because that is what Haqq is. Remind each other of Haqq. If this concept was foreign to faith, Allah is the same Allah that sent revelation to the Jews and the Christians as well. Right? The concept of Haqq, the concept of truth, the concept of justice is not something that's unique to Muslims. And that's why this surah doesn't actually talk about Muslims. This surah is talking about mankind. That surely by the passing of time, mankind is in loss, except for those of you who believe, who do good deeds, who enjoin, who remind each other of Haqq, who remind each other of truth, who remind each other of justice, and وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and who enjoin, who remind, who invite towards sabr, patience. Why? Because the scholars tell us that if you are reminding people towards truth and towards justice and towards honesty, naturally, you have to be patient. You have to be patient. You have to remind each other to be patient. Because when we are seeing what is happening around the world and within our homeland, we could see that Haqq is missing. We could see that it's a missing element of what is happening around us today. Haqq is the one thing that we are dying to try to find, both in the Muslim countries and in the non-Muslim countries. Actually, maybe more in the Muslim countries, that we're just dying to find Haqq, that we're dying to find truth, that we're desperate when we're looking for it with other people. But you know what? That's when we constantly have to remind each other to be patient. Because when we look around the world, we grow frustrated or despondent, or just we turn to Allah and we say, "Oh Allah, how could this happen?" And that's when we have to remember to be patient. That is when we have to remember that it is also, this surah says, وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and enjoin on each other haqq. Remind each other to be patient. Remind each other to be patient. You know, when someone is going through a really tough time, if they lost a family member, if they lost a spouse, or if they lost a child, if they lost a parent, it's a really difficult thing to try to comfort someone. Actually, I'm terrible at it. When somebody passes away, I don't even know what to say. I can't say I'm sorry for your loss, because that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed for the person to die. Right? Everyone's time will come, everyone's time will happen, and we will all at one point or another go 6 feet under the ground. And when people are going through this calamity, what is it that we do remind each other of? We remind each other to be patient. We remind each other that this is the will of Allah. We remind each other that the time will come when we will be reunited in Jannah, inshallah. And so as we, in the shorter surahs, particularly for the younger folks who are trying to always finish. When I was younger, now I'm a little older, maybe I'm a little more patient now. But when I was younger, I was trying to get my salahs done, because it's like a tick mark. Like, I prayed Fajr, I prayed Zuhr, just as you're younger, you don't necessarily have a full grasp of what you're doing. But as we get older, and time, even though time is fast, time maybe, it kind of slows down to a point where you have a moment to think. Remind each other constantly to be patient. Because when in communities like this, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, we are constantly going through difficulties. We are constantly going through struggles, both collectively and individually. We're constantly dealing with the loss of members of our community. We're constantly dealing with loss of members of our families. We're constantly dealing with strife and conflict. And that's when we have to remember to be patient. And that's when we have to remind each other to be patient. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all and give us all the tawfiq and the ability to remember to be patient and to remind each other to be patient. Wa akhiru da'wa wa alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Lord, who has created you. This was the first revelation. Read. And if we look around both Muslim and non-Muslim today, particularly with the Muslims though, we will see that the thing that is lacking the most in our communities is education. Is that we may read Quran, but we don't understand it. That we think, and shaitan, particularly as someone who has grown up here and is not a native Arabic speaker or even reader, I'm an English speaker. And even Urdu, we may not know how to read Urdu. I don't know how to read Urdu. So what shaitan plants this seed of doubt in our mind by making you think, or trying to scare you into thinking that if you read the Quran in English or in any other language other than Arabic, then it's not the Quran. This is a trick that shaitan tries to play on all of us. That if you read the Quran in any other language, you are not actually reading the Quran. And yes, that may be true, that you are not reading the Arabic version of the Quran. But if you are trying to understand what it is that you are reading, you would naturally do it in the language that you are most dominant in. So if you are Bengali, you would read it in Arabic and Bangla. If you are Pakistani, you would read it in Arabic and Urdu. If you are Spanish, you would read it in Arabic and Spanish. But shaitan makes us think that if you are reading in Arabic, but you don't understand what it is that you're reading, that is sufficient. It is not enough to just read Arabic Quran without any sort of understanding of what you are reading. If I could teach a monkey to memorize something, but if the monkey doesn't know what they are doing, or why it is, or what it is that they are understanding, or I could teach, I don't want to use the example of a monkey, actually that's a bad example. I could teach someone who doesn't understand any Arabic, any English, any Urdu, any language, and maybe they understand only one language. I could teach even myself. I have memorized some surahs, right? All of us may have memorized some surahs. Ask yourself, do you really know what it is that you're reading? Do you really understand what it is that you are saying? If you truly believe that this is the book of God, if this is the book of Allah, this is the guidance for all of mankind that Allah has blessed us with, are you really not going to take the time out to understand what it is that you're reading? And that's a question that I want to leave all of us with, because I'm talking to myself. You guys see me on an all the time basis. I grew up here. I do not speak Arabic. I learn from Brother Ghani as much as I can. But all of us owe it to ourselves to open the Quran in a language that we understand, and to ask questions, and to seek the knowledge. Because if we are truly saying that this is the book of Allah, that this is a guidance for all of mankind, then we owe it to ourselves that when we stand on the Day of Judgment, Allah will ask us, Allah gave us the Quran, what did you do with it? Did you just read it and recite it, or did you seek to understand the message? Because Allah has created us all, and He's told us the simple first command, read in the name of your Lord who created you. And may Allah give us all the ability to understand and take the time so that we could learn and we can implement, and not just simply recite word after word. Ibadallah rahimakumullah, inna Allah ya'muru bil adl wa ihsan wa ita'i dhil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkari wal baghi ya'idukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. Aqimus salah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
سووا صفوفكم فإن تسوية الصفوف من تمام الصلاة. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. هل أتاك حديث الغاشية وجوه يومئذ خاشعة عاملة ناصبة تصلى نارا حامية تسقى من عين آنية ليس لهم طعام إلا من ضريع لا يسمن ولا يغني من جوع وجوه يومئذ ناعمة لسعيها راضية في جنة عالية لا تسمع فيها لاغية فيها عين جارية فيها سرر مرفوعة وأكواب موضوعة ونمارق مصفوفة وزرابي مبثوثة أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت وإلى الجبال كيف نصبت وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت فذكر إنما أنت مذكر لست عليهم بمسيطر إلا من تولى وكفر فيعذبه الله العذاب الأكبر إن إلينا إيابهم ثم إن علينا حسابهم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum. Please wait for a second. The donation boxes are coming. Please donate generously. Since Ramadan, our daily Jummah collection has gone down, so please reach deep into your pockets and donate generously for the masjid. We do really need the support. Also, we have a Mawahid system in the back, so if you want to sign up for monthly donations, or if you're using a debit card, you can do that, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. رب اجعل لي مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. اللهم اشف مرضانا جميع المسلمين. اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا. اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيا الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان. رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.